What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Snack Size DFS for Friday, January the 17th, 2025. I am Dan Vespers, but I'm just here to introduce my good friend Brenton Eckersley, which is good because I am fighting some sort of cold or flu bug, and you guys don't want me around for more than a minute or a minute and a half, or I'm going to cough and sneeze into your faces. Please remember to like, please remember to subscribe, and please remember to drop a 5-star review on the program as Brenton gets you set to win your DFS slate here. Friday is a fun card. It's a 9-gamer, a lot of really interesting angles at play. But of course, before we get into that, I got to remind you guys that Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to the NBA, to college basketball, to NHL and UFC. Bet Online is your number one sports betting source for the new year. They've got touchdowns, they've got three-pointers, they've got hat tricks. Bet Online has you covered every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. And now the show starts here. Brenton, take it away.
Welcome to another edition of Snack Size DFS. I'm your host, Brenton Eckersley. Thanks as always, Dan. This is part of the Old Man Squad Network. If you haven't been here before, welcome in. And what we're doing here is presenting a very condensed version, snack size version of the DraftKings slate for Friday, the 17th of January. DraftKings have 7 games of the 9 games in their main slate today. So let's jump in real quick. We got a lot to get through. There's a lot of news to work with. So let's get this thing happening. Snack size DFS for Friday, January the 17th. Here are our game notes. We look at fast games. We look at some slower games. The Toronto at Milwaukee game has a 231 game total up already. That one's a pretty quick game. There's no overly ridiculously quick games here today. The 230 game total seems to be about as fast as we get. So you can also look at Charlotte at Chicago. That one's going to be pretty quick as well. 232 game total. The slower ones, Orlando at Boston, no game total yet at the time of recording, but that one should be fairly slow, you would imagine, with Orlando being one of the slowest paced teams in the league, and also Minnesota at New York. They're 2 slower paced teams as well. Just a new little icon to keep a lookout for down the bottom right hand corner there is that little nice purple arrow. That's going to just denote a pace bump for a particular team. So in this case, on this slate, Denver play a lot quicker than Miami, so we expect Miami to have slightly elevated fantasy scoring than they normally might, and also the same thing with Charlotte playing against Chicago. Last season Charlotte were one of the fastest teams in the league. They've slowed down quite a bit this season. Playing against Chicago, though, they are going to get that little pace bump that we like. Attack and stack, so this is just looking at teams that we can target as per usual. Milwaukee's everywhere. Utah at the Pelicans, and also back the other way, the Pelicans versus Utah. Fantasy points on offer everywhere there. Charlotte at Chicago, that's already come up as a pace bump as well. So Charlotte, a particular team we can look at, and there's a lot of news surrounding those guys today. And also San Antonio versus Memphis. Memphis playing quite quick at the moment. Actually, that San Antonio game is no longer on the DraftKings card, so you can ignore that little bit there. But just keep an eye on Memphis lately. They are playing quite quick, probably with the return of Ja Morant pushing things up the court. So in future games, ignore this one. In future games, teams playing Memphis they are giving up quite a few fantasy points themselves. Okay, so jumping into the first game, Orlando at Boston. As mentioned, this one could be a fairly slow game. Orlando, we have a bit of news there. We know that Goga is out, so Wendell Carter Jr. at 4,300. He put up 32 DK points with Goga out last game. That's a very nice price for Carter Jr. Cole Anthony continues to roll along at 6,300. The price still hasn't really caught up with what he's capable of. His last game was a bit down with 29 DK points, but that was only 27 minutes played in a fairly large blowout. Anthony Black's been getting a lot of minutes off the bench, 30 and 37 in his last couple of games. That's going to be obviously because Jalen Suggs still hasn't returned, but they have been flipping that around between a lot of different players. Now it seems like Black is getting the bulk of those bench minutes, so 4,400 is a GPP play for Anthony Black. And also Trevelyan Queen at 3,800. He's got some minutes off the bench lately as well. 31, 28. minutes respectively, with a couple of decent scores. 18, we like that 29 DK points in the last one, so he is your pinata play. For the Celtics, Horford and Porzingis have been named as in. I like that price for Kristaps at 7k. We loved it last game as well. He did beat it, although only just. But I don't mind that price again. 7k is just too cheap for a guy who can put up, as you can see, 50 DK points and 42 and 42 on the regular basis. Jaylen Brown at 8k, that's a price drop. Yeah, he hasn't been doing very well with DK points lately, but this is the price we need to look for Jaylen Brown, anything around that 8k or under. And his last couple of games, he's had some horrid shooting games. So again, if he can bounce back, we love that price for Jaylen Brown. Moving on to the Timberwolves and the Knickerbockers. This is another slow game, so again, fantasy points will be down a little bit, but I expect this one will stay pretty close. We've got that revenge narrative with multiple guys back and forth on this team as well, if you play that particular narrative in DFS. Minnesota on a back-to-back, and we already know that Dante DiVincenzo is out. So for me, that opens up a big opportunity for Mike Conley to absolutely breeze through that $3,500 DK price. I love that with Mike Conley there. Julius Randle at 7,100. Look, it's a decent price. He's been around that. It's kind of his floor. He can have his upside nights anytime. New York are a tough defense, but I still will look at Julius Randle at 7,100. He's a good cash play with some upside. And your GPP dart throw pinata play, whatever you want to call it, is always Jaden McDaniels at 4,300. He's a bit of a yo-yo, but we've seen him put up a couple of monster scores in between some lower ones. For the Knicks, we know that Karl Anthony Towns is questionable. That thumb looked really sore when I saw him play last. He's still questionable with that. We love Jalen Brunson at 8,400 if Cat can't go, just because the usage goes all the way to Jalen Brunson. And you can see the last three scores there for Brunson: 63, 54, and 53. 8,400 is way too cheap for Jalen Brunson. Josh Hart at 8k. If Cat sits, this becomes a good play again. With Cat out last time, he put up 62 DK points. That was versus Philly, who are probably a softer defense than Minnesota, but we still love that price for Josh Hart if Cat can't go. And Cat himself at 9,900, if he comes in, there won't be minutes restrictions because it was a thumb, so he's not under any conditioning restrictions or anything. It's actually a price drop. We love the narrative going back against Minnesota after what he did last time with the 72-point DK outing against them. That may cool a little, but still, he's in play at 9,900 if that's where you want to spend your money. As I mentioned, lots of stuff to talk about here with Charlotte. They're playing Chicago. This should be a very fast game. We have Brandon Miller and Moussa Diabate questionable, and we know that Josh Okogie is in. He was traded in. I don't expect him to play a huge role here. LaMelo Ball at 10-4. Great spot versus Chicago. There's that little purple arrow. This is a pace bump for Charlotte, playing against a much faster Chicago team this year. So LaMelo Ball, that's a great price against a porous defense and also a fast-playing team at 10-4. Miles Bridges, 7,600. He's always playable around that price, but especially good if Miller sits. That should read a great price versus Chicago, not Utah. That was last time. He was a great price then as well. But especially if Brandon Miller sits, 7,600 for Miles Bridges is a great play. And Mark Williams, I mean, Nick Richards has been traded away. That bench role that has been a little bit uncertain lately is now just moved out of the way. We saw him get 36 minutes in the last game, so he's obviously healthy enough to do that. 50 plus DK points in his last two. This has to be one of the best plays on the card. 6,100 is one of my favourite plays for Mark Williams. With Nick Richards gone, we have Moussa Diabate at 3k on the DraftKings pricing, and he is going to get the backup center minutes now, you would think. Just keep an eye on the fact that he is questionable. I love that price for Diabate if we know that he's playing. And also, if Brandon Miller sits, then we have options. That's the problem here. It's options. We don't really know which one is going to start. It's probably Cody Martin who starts, honestly, at 4k. But it could be Josh Green. It could be Tijan Sulan. I've trouble with that name. I'm going to get used to it, though. These three guys, you can kind of pick one of them and go with it. I wouldn't play two of them in one lineup with Brandon Miller out, but you can swing at the fences there with one of those guys if you'd like to. On the Chicago side of the ball, we know that Lonzo Ball is in. Dosunmu and White are both probable, which kind of caps Josh Giddey's upside. He is questionable himself. So if both of those guys play, it does cap Josh Giddey a little. He is questionable. At 7K, though, that's a $500 price drop, and I don't mind having a look at him. He's been a little bit bouncy like a yo-yo lately. 46, 38, 52, and 27. So just keep in mind that 27 was with both Dosunmu and Kobe White playing. So if we see both of those guys in, you can probably put a line through Josh Giddey. Zach LaVine, 8,600. He's coming off some very high fantasy scores. He's shooting the ball a lot. In fact, the last game, I think his shot attempts were down a little bit and he still did well. So I like the price of 8,600 for Zach LaVine. Lonzo Ball back in at 4,600. He's a GPP tournament play, especially if Giddey sits. We may see anywhere to 27, 28 minutes, and that's all we need from Lonzo Ball. He's more of a cash play probably than a GPP play, but I like that price at 4,600. And Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu themselves at 6,300 and 6,100 respectively. Love those prices if Giddey sits. I would probably lean more towards Kobe White because Ayo is still on a bit of a minutes restriction. So Kobe White there at 6,300 if we see that Giddey sits, who is questionable. Lots of news there. Moving on to the Nuggets and the Heat. Jokic is questionable again. Aaron Gordon is also questionable for the Nuggets. Nikola Jokic, as I said, questionable at about 11,900. Like, it's a price drop. He hasn't quite hit that in the last two, 60 and 51, but we still see those scores before that, over 80 DK points each. So always in play. Probably not going to make my favourite plays board tonight or anything, but you can just never count the Joker out. Russell Westbrook, however, 7,100. He has had lower minutes in the last two. I would keep an eye on the Gordon news that may keep Westbrook's minutes down a little bit, but I still like Westbrook at 7,100. His ceiling has been much higher than that lately, so Westbrook is a good play still at 7,100. The DraftKings pricing just hasn't caught up. Jamal Murray, 7K. The price is just dropping. You can see this guy at around 8K or higher, 8,600 sometimes, and this is just too cheap for Jamal Murray. Yes, he hasn't been getting it done lately. He's had some off again, on again games, but 7K once again, too cheap. You can look at Jamal Murray here. And if Jokic sits, then your cash play only here because of the limited upside is Dario Saric. I think he was listed at 4K from memory. Onto the Miami side of the ball. We know that Jimmy Butler, tough to deal with here. He is off the injury report, but what does that mean? Is he going to play? He's demanded a trade twice. So are they going to play him minutes? Are they going to play him decent minutes? I mean, as a coach, I'm not sure that I would, but I'm not the coach of the Miami Heat. So we'll see what happens. I'm tentative here just to see what happens with the Butler minutes. Bam Adebayo is back in also, which kind of kills off Kello Ware. However, down the bottom there, you can see Kello Ware at 4K, still grabbed 11 boards, even with Bam back. He's had 33 minutes with the Bam missing game, and he still had 18 minutes, and that's enough for Kello Ware to get a roundabout value. The other two guys on the board there, Tyler Hero, 8,800. He has the pace bump. As I mentioned, there's a little purple arrow down the bottom there. This will be much better if Jimmy sits, or if you think that Jimmy is not going to take a major role in this team. If Jimmy's limited, by the coach by Spoelstra to 22, 25 minutes, then other guys obviously get the minutes boost and also the usage bump. So I don't mind Tyler Hero here at 8,800. Nikola Jovic, though, at 5,300. This is going to be more if Jimmy sits or you believe he's going to be limited. It's very much up in the air with the Miami Heat until we work out what's happening with Jimmy Butler. I'll leave it up to you guys to make your decisions there because I am not a soothsayer. Moving on to the Jazz and the Pelicans. A lot of news here as well. Just up on the injury report, we know that Micah Potter and Walker Kessler are now listed as out. So that leaves a huge hole at centre. I did not even have Drew Eubanks on my in my thinking here until I saw that news about half an hour ago. So Drew Eubanks at 4,100 though. He's coming off of 31 and 21 minutes, 27 and 29 DK points, and literally Utah have no other centers for this game outside of down the bottom there, and I'm going to get this name wrong, I'm sure. Oscar Tshiebwe at 3K would be your dart throw pinata play center. So, moving away from the centre position though, Keontae George at 6K, that's a $500 price jump, but it's still a great price. We saw him go absolutely off last game. We know that Markkanen and Collins are both doubtful. In fact, I think they've both been ruled out as I record this. So, guys like Keontae George at 6K, Colin Sexton at 7,500, and Bryce Sensabaugh at 4,800 are all very much in play now with multiple guys on this Jazz lineup out. On the Pelicans side of the ball, Zion is in after missing the second of a back-to-back last game. And surprisingly, Jose Alvarado is apparently going to suit up. He went to the locker room in the last game and he was holding his wrist like it was broken. But apparently he's off the injury report. So good news for my Pelicans. It does limit some other potential plays that I had down the bottom there, though. Trey Murphy, man, most improved player of the year, maybe. 70. There's a couple of other guys in there, Amen Thompson and such, that are vying for that award. But this guy's just on an absolute roll. 7,400. That's a price drop. Thanks, DK. After 43, 44, 54, and 52 DK points. Like, cool. I think Micah Potria said the other day about someone, what does this guy have to do to get a price bump? 7,400 is too cheap for Trey Murphy. DeJounte Murray at 8,200. That's a price drop. Same story here. Look at the scoring. 55, 37 lower, but 54. And this is versus Utah. And he has a price drop. Cool. We'll use it. 8,200. Thanks for coming. CJ McCollum at 7K. That's always a great price for CJ. He's had some horrid shooting nights, but we've seen not that long ago what CJ can do when he's actually on. 7K remains an excellent price for CJ McCollum. And with Alvarado back in, you can pretty much ignore those Hawkins and Boston Jr. plays down the bottom. I got the news late on Jose. The Raptors at the Bucks. So we know that Emmanuel Quickley is out. Scotty Barnes at 8,700. This is a cash play. I don't have much interest in this. He hasn't really been pushing past that price in terms of what his scoring output has been. So I'll probably leave Scotty Barnes alone, but he just becomes one of those guys. If you're tossing up between a couple of different guys, he's still okay at 8,700 if you can't fit one of the higher price guys in. Chris Boucher at 3,600 at the moment. He's a GPP play every day. He's just bouncing around a little bit, so you need to pick your days. I can't pick Chris Boucher, so I tend to leave him alone. But you may have better luck. You may be the Chris Boucher whisperer. I'm not sure. Davion Mitchell at 3,800 with Quickly out. He's another dart throw GPP pinata play at 3,800. On the Milwaukee side of the board, I actually don't have much interest here in Giannis. I've left him out here, just priced appropriately, I think. Didn't have great games in the first two matchups versus Toronto, so we'll just leave him off the board here. Now watch him go for 80 DK points, of course. I prefer Dame Lillard here at 8,400. Dame gets on shooting rolls now that he's a bit of an older man. It's not just your guaranteed 50 DK points every single time he plays, but he is on the roll, so we can look at that at 8,400. His last four outings, 50, 33, 44 and 50 DK points. A bit of a dart throw, I guess. He's a decent cash player at 4,800. Brook Lopez, his minutes have been up in the last two games. Before that, they were well down into the mid-20s. Middleton is back here, I believe, so just be aware of that now. But I don't mind Brook Lopez for 4,800. Again, I have to put some guys up here. I can't put every high price or 3K guy up here. We'll just be playing stars and scrubs for the rest of our lives. We do need to look at some of these mid-price guys who have been performing or could perform against a fairly porous defense in the Raptors. I hope that makes sense. On to the Thunder versus the Mavs. We know that Hartenstein's out for multiple games here. A lot of people rushed in season-long fantasy to just go grab Jalen Williams off the bench or off the waiver wire. I'm not 100% sure about that. At the time of recording, OKC have just started playing their first game on the back-to-back, so we'll need to have a look at what Jalen Williams does here. 3,800, sure, he started, but how many minutes does he play today? Well, I'm not sure yet. The other option there is for OKC to play some more small ball and to play Kenrich Williams at centre a little bit more. So therefore, I've got both those guys there. They're your pinata plays. You can, I guess we've got a good game to look at today, right? I know Hartenstein. Which way does the coach go with? Which Williams does he go with Jalen Williams or with Kenrich Williams? We can probably make a call from that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 10-2, always in play. That's a price drop. It's a back-to-back, so just be careful. It's not a potentially fast game or anything, but SGA is just scoring 30 actual points on the regular, so that always puts him in play at 10-2. Jalen Williams is a price drop at 8K. He's a cash play. He does have some upside every night. And Cason Wallace has just been getting minutes over the other guys who he was previously fighting it out for in terms of I've lost the names. AJ. It's just a real mix at shooting guard there. Isaiah Joe and AJ Mitchell. Yeah, they're the two that he was fighting it out for. But now he's just locked in that 30-minute starting position, it seems, every night. So 4,200. That's a bit of a deep GPP play for you. On the Mavs side of the ball, Kyrie Irving, questionable. Probably expect him to play. We know that Derek Lively is out, though, so that opens up Daniel Gafford, who absolutely torched the Pelicans the other day. 5,500 is an excellent price for Daniel Gafford with no Lively in. And also we know that there's no Hartenstein on the other side of the ball protecting that rim. Jalen Williams may be there, but he is not Isaiah Hartenstein. So the price of 5,500 has to be one of the best plays on the board. Spencer Dinwiddie is just up on the board there at 6,300 in case Kyrie does not play. Oh, that was the last game. Cool. So my favourite plays of the day, as mentioned, Wendell Carter Jr. versus Boston. We already know that Goga is out, so that's a good play. Mike Conley is one of my favourite little cheapy plays here. I can't see him going under 30 minutes here. It is a tough matchup, but Mike Conley versus New York, I think he was 3,500. That's a pretty cool play for me. Jalen Brunson versus Minnesota, especially if Cat is not there, but even if Cat plays, that's a good spot for Brunson. Mark Williams without Nick Richards is all going to just put up a monster game, I feel, versus Chicago. Keontae George versus my Pelicans. Trey Murphy III versus Utah back the other way. Also DeJounte Murray versus Utah back the other way. And Daniel Gafford is also in smash territory versus OKC. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's been Snack Size DFS for another edition. Please please subscribe to the Old Man Squad Network. We love your support. You can find me on the socials at Terrain72. And that is it for me today. Thank you very much for joining me. And back to you, Dan.
Thanks, Brenton. He's just good, man. He's just good. I think I may have left myself up in the corner there. You guys are just looking at a blank background for a while, and maybe you saw me like reach across while organizing some things. All class. This is what happens when I'm a little bit under the weather. Want to remind everybody as well that we have a new partner here at the Old Man Squad Fantasy Sports Network, and that is our buddies at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is this incredible opportunity for you to play basically pick 'em and turn that into cash. It's extremely straightforward. What I'd like to do here with your blessing is just very quickly show you what that Underdog screen looks like. And so you guys can kind of look along with us. So I'll zoom in a tad. This is the homepage for underdogfantasy.com. You can navigate over to the NBA tab if you want, and then you can see these promos. You got a gimme pick right here. That's the freebie that you can get by using our promo code OLDMAN when you sign up, and it also will get you a 50% deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's all right there on the screen. You can see it as you're looking at it, and then you just scroll down. So this is the perfect time to talk about it. I'm thinking of, let's see, what was that? I'm going to collapse all the games here so I can go straight to this OKC Dallas game. Brenton was just talking about what a huge opportunity it is for Daniel Gafford. He loves Daniel Gafford on the DFS side tonight. So there you go. Boom, boom. You got this higher or lower play. You think higher or lower than 13.5 points. Points, boards, assists is 23.5. Rebounds is 8.5. You got an opportunity. I mean, you could check a whole bunch. You get some Daniel Gafford in the mix. Then go find someone else that Brenton talked about on the DFS side and cash those in with Underdog as well. At some point in this coming week, when I'm not sick, we're going to go through and we're going to play one together because Underdog was kind enough to put some funds in my account so that I can show you guys how I go through this stuff. Check them out now. Again, promo code is OLDMAN, OLDMAN. You can also just click on the referral link in the show description. That's probably the easiest way, so you don't actually have to worry about typing in anything. And just go through and, find your hires, find your lowers, whatever you like. Make your entry, create your lineup, and go win some cash with UnderdogFantasy.com. We're very excited to have them aboard. And thank you to Underdog for hanging out with us. Again, thanks to Brenton Eckersley. You can find him on social at Terrain72. Good luck on your DFS cards tonight. For Old Man Squad, I'm Dan, and I am out.